Most people who study the Second World War focus on movement, armored thrusts, encirclements, offensives that redrew maps in weeks. What receives far less attention is immobility, the hours when armies stopped, the nights when soldiers lay down on ground that leached heat from their bodies faster than hunger, fear, or exhaustion ever could. In cold theaters, from the forests outside Moscow to the hedgerows of the Ardennes and the ridgelines of the Apennines, sleep itself became a logistical problem. Frostbite did not always strike during combat. Men often lost toes, fingers, and sometimes their ability to fight because of how and where they slept. The frozen earth was not just uncomfortable, it was an active adversary. It conducted heat away from the body 25 times faster than still air. Soldiers who survived firefights sometimes failed a far more mundane test, preventing the ground from draining their core temperature while they tried to rest. What follows are 9 sleeping practices, improvised, institutionalized, or learned the hard way, that soldiers used to survive frozen terrain. These were not romantic fieldcraft tricks, they were adaptations forged under pressure, and many of them quietly shaped modern cold weather doctrine. The first lesson was simple and often learned too late: never sleep directly on the ground. In the winter of 1941-42, as the German army stalled before Moscow, units of the Wehrmacht discovered that even well-fed, disciplined soldiers could collapse overnight simply by lying on frozen soil. The earth acted as a heat sink. Blankets on top of the body did little if insulation beneath was absent. German and Soviet troops, alike, began prioritizing under-insulation over additional layers above. Cloaks, greatcoats, spare uniforms, even dismantled wagon covers were placed beneath the torso. The physics was clear, even if few articulated it formally. Insulation below mattered more than insulation above. This principle later became standard in NATO cold weather manuals: ground insulation first, then overhead shelter. It was not theoretical, it was a response to casualty reports. Soldiers learned to build beds from the landscape, even when timber and time were scarce. On the Eastern Front, troops from the Red Army routinely cut spruce boughs and laid them in thick, overlapping layers before lying down. The trapped air within pine needles and branches created an improvised mattress that reduced conductive heat loss. Where branches were unavailable, such as in shelled or denuded zones, soldiers gathered straw from barns, reeds from marsh edges, or even brush from hedgerows. Western Allied troops in Normandy during the winter of 1944 adapted similar methods, sometimes stripping thatch or fence material for the same purpose. The lesson was logistical as much as tactical. Cold weather survival required anticipating what terrain could provide at night, not just how it could be defended during the day. Digging down was dangerous, but digging smartly could save lives. It seems counterintuitive, but shallow scraping rather than deep digging often proved more effective. Deep foxholes accumulated moisture, which froze. Sleeping below ground level without drainage meant condensation and meltwater refroze against clothing. Finnish forces during the Winter War developed compact, insulated positions where soldiers dug only enough to shield from wind, then lined the floor with wood or brush. The key was elevation within the depression, sleeping slightly raised from the coldest soil.